What is one big failure in my life? Man, I'm going to get transparent right now. What did I learn from it? How did I transform it? Now, I actually have shared this bad experience on numerous occasions, but I got inspired to share this with you on a YouTube video because I was recently interviewed for an article with Entrepreneur Magazine, and this was one of their questions they asked in that interview. And I thought, you know what, because they were, wow. So when people ask me, what's a big failure? I've had many failures, okay? Zig Ziglar was one of my favorite motivational speakers years ago, and he said, the only difference between a big shot and a little shot is a big shot is a little shot that kept shooting, okay? Every time I have failed in my life, I mentally just said, okay, that makes me closer to my next success. It's all up here, how you view something as a failure or a success, okay? And so the quicker you learn this, the better off you will be. You don't beat yourself up when you fail, okay? Now, I'm going to use my favorite story of how I did this because it really illustrates how you can actually turn any failure into a positive outcome and make it intellectual capital. If you don't know what that means, get ready. I'm Doug Andrew, and if you don't know my background, I've been a financial strategist and retirement planning specialist now for more than 5 decades, helping thousands of Americans optimize their assets, minimize tax, and empower their authentic wealth. I actually started as a financial strategist, financial planner in 1974, okay? And so I'm going to share a story that started out 4 years into that career. And it was probably the best thing that ever happened to me. But when I started back then, I began to realize that, every time that I attempted something, I realized that the quicker that I failed, the faster the success would come. And so I really sort of am a quick start. My Kolbe, if you know what that is, Kolbe, my Kolbe profile is quick start. I would just as soon try something and see if it fails rather than sit around and wait until everything's perfect to make sure that I don't fail. I'd just soon learn as fast as I can. Okay, that's just me. But let's start out with what happened back when I first started in 1974. That was the year I started in this business. I got a Series 1 securities license, and I got my insurance license in 1974. From 1974 until 1980, I ended up being responsible for over 3,000 clients in 13 Western states. And by 1980, I had licensed and trained over 1,000 agents, okay? So a lot of people go, whoa, that's pretty successful. Well, right during that period, I had probably one of my biggest failures. And I had critics out there that thought that I should never, ever share this failure. They thought I would lose all credibility by sharing this failure, which I did in my first book. I had critics go, oh, you're a financial advisor and you admitted you lost some money? Man, you just lost all credibility. I went, what? No, that's the most credible story I tell. In America, we love stories of people who got knocked down and picked themselves up by their bootstraps. What are they talking about? Okay. It's probably the best thing that ever happened to me. So here we go. In 1974, not only did I start out in this business of financial advisement, okay, with those licenses, but I also got married, February 1974. And there were some things that happened our first year of marriage that 3 months after we were married, my wife got pregnant. We wanted to start our family immediately, but 3 months into her pregnancy, she was in the hospital, deathly sick, and nearly passed away. In fact, technically, she passed away 2 or 3 times the first year we were married because they couldn't figure out what was wrong. She thought she had gallstones or whatever. She nearly miscarried our first child. She had a football-sized colorectal cyst meshed between her liver and pancreas. When they finally went in which they didn't want to do until they absolutely had to, because we would probably abort our little baby. They drained it down to the size of a grapefruit and closed her back up again. They didn't know what to do. I'm not going to go into that. That's not the failure. But the first year we were married, we ended up with $30,000 of hospital bills. Now, that's what we had to pay out of our pocket. It was actually over 200 grand of hospital bills because she was in intensive care for weeks on end, okay? We miraculously had that first little child and she was born perfectly. Miracles. But that was the year I started in this business, which is always really, really hard because I didn't have a salary. I didn't have a wage. I was totally 100% commission-based, okay? So I'm not going to talk about that because, yeah, it's like Zig Ziglar says, don't make any mistakes. It isn't that I didn't sell much. I sold a lot that first year. I sold my house. I sold my car. No, I'm just teasing. But it was hard, really hard. What was my failure? Okay. I worked so hard that first year that we were finally able to meet those hospital bills, start making money. I ended up being responsible again for all these clients in 13 Western states. And so we actually had bought a home when the first year we were married. And then we sold that home and we built another home, which is actually a duplex. And I used half of that for my office and the other half to live in. But in 1978, 4 years after we were married, my wife and I built our dream home, okay? It was a beautiful 6,400 square foot home with cathedral beam wood deck ceilings. It was going to be featured in Better Homes and Garden magazine. It was gorgeous, and it was located on 2 acres on a canyon rim in central Utah. I was going to buy a helicopter and fly to my office 30 minutes away and fly home because I wasn't interrupting anybody on this canyon rim and land on a heliport there at my house, okay? It was my dream home, okay? We thought we had the world by the tail. Why? Now listen close. Any piece of real estate I've ever acquired in my life, I've never paid one dime in a down payment out of my pocket. I've satisfied down payments, but never with my own money. I understood some things that a lot of people didn't understand. And so I didn't pay a down payment for this house. The story is in my first book. The lot that we bought, and we ended up having the seller of the lot carry a contract. The lot satisfied the down payment because I bought the lot for $7 grand and it was appraised for 30 grand, which satisfied the down payment on a $150,000 construction loan, okay? I didn't lay one dime on the table. I bought that lot for $75 a month, okay? Maybe I shelled out $75 in a monthly payment for a lot. Folks, we built that home for $150,000 back in 1978. And as soon as we moved in, it appraised for $305,000. Yep. It was worth more than double what we paid to build it. We thought we had the world by the tail. Now, let me give you a little insight here. I had over $150,000 of equity, but that equity didn't come as a result of me paying a down payment or paying money into the house. That equity happened as the house appreciated, okay? But I thought, that's great. We've got the world by the tail. We've got $150,000 of equity sitting in our house, and we didn't put one dime of our money in there to create that. Well, 2 years later, 1980. Any of you remember that? Most of you probably weren't born that are watching this. In 1980, we had an energy crisis in America, a huge recession. Houston, Texas, who was, an oil capital of the world. In Houston, Texas alone, 16,000 homes got foreclosed on in 1980. Now, 16,000 homeowners didn't all of a sudden become bad people. They just couldn't make their mortgage payments because they lost their jobs, okay? And, many of them, they had been making extra principal payments against their mortgages, and they called up the mortgage company and said, I've been paying an extra $100 a month for the last 5 years. I calculate I'm 9 months ahead. They learned real quick. It didn't matter. The next mortgage payment was due, and in 90 days, their homes were foreclosed on, 16,000 of them. Well, that recession rippled to Utah, where I lived, okay? And then something happened. Actually, it was three things happened to us that we never dreamed would happen simultaneously. I'm not going to get into the gory details, but there was a supervisor above us in our company that embezzled money that he shouldn't have. He took money that he shouldn't have, that wasn't his, it was ours. And when I say ours, there were three of us that were managers underneath him. Well, the company froze all of our commissions in an escrow while they investigated him to make sure that we weren't into cahoots with him. All of a sudden, my income went to zip. I had thousands of dollars coming to me, and so did two other gentlemen. Well, the other two gentlemen, they lost their homes in foreclosure in 90 days. If you don't make your mortgage payment for 90 days on a trustee note, they can foreclose on you. That's the deal. Okay? They don't loan you money based on the amount of equity in your property. That has nothing to do with it. They loan you money based on your ability to repay, and they lack the ability to repay. So did I. Fortunately, I had a duplex that we owned, that we had lived in before, we had built, and I was able to sell that duplex and take the equity and bring my delinquent mortgage current. So I saved my house from foreclosure. But then I got behind again. I fortunately had a timeshare at a ski resort that I was able to sell for triple what I paid for it, and I brought my delinquent mortgage current a second time. But I didn't have any other liquid assets. And not seeing any light at the end of the tunnel where this escrow was going to be released anytime soon, and it wasn't, I said, honey, let's put our house up for sale. We can build another dream home on another 2 acres that we owned next to this one, okay? We'll build another home. We'll start over. I put this house up for sale for $295,000. I had a bona fide appraisal in my hand that it was worth $305,000. No takers. When you have more supply than demand in a recession, the price of real estate goes down. I immediately lowered the price of my house down to $285, then $275, then $265, then $225. Now, I will never forget the day my wife and I walked into the county courthouse in Provo, Utah, and on the courthouse steps at the sheriff's auction, we watched that beautiful home get foreclosed on. I'll never forget that day. Now, actually, my wife and I went out and bought another home in less than 7 days with no money down, no credit. Because I already knew that I could buy a home with no money down and no credit. That's a whole nother subject that I've taught. I've even taught on this YouTube channel. But this is what I learned, okay? I learned, fortunately, how to take negative experiences and turn them into positive outcomes. What did I learn? I learned, first of all, that a prudent investment, the key elements of a prudent investment are, in order of priority, liquidity, the ability to access your money when you need it. 2, safety. The money you have in an investment is safe from loss of principal. 3, that it earns a rate of return. 4, that it has tax advantages. And all of a sudden I go, whoa, real estate equity, my home equity failed all 3 of those tests. It's not liquid. The only way I could get my money back is if I sold the house or if I could borrow the money back. When you need the money the worst, it's the hardest to get. They're not going to loan me money when I don't have the ability to repay. My real estate equity is not liquid. It fails the liquidity test. It's not safety. My house went down in value from $305,000. I couldn't give it away for $160,000. It's not safe from loss of principal. It does not earn a rate of return. It doesn't matter if my house was mortgaged to the hilt or free and clear. The equity in there, okay? Equity grows as a function of the house or real estate appreciating or the debt reducing. But it has nothing to do with the amount of equity you have. It's going to appreciate or depreciate regardless of whether it's mortgaged to the hilt or free and clear. Equity, the rate of return on real estate equity is always the same, 0, zip, nada. Are you getting it? Only when you separate the equity and put it over into a position of liquidity safety, and then you can earn a rate of return. And I learned that I could earn a rate of return double or triple the net cost of the mortgage if it's tax deductible. This is how bankers work. This is why mega wealthy people have their houses mortgaged to the hilt. They could pay them off anytime they want. But they borrow money like I do at 4.5% tax deductible interest in a 33% bracket. It's a net cost of 3. $1 million mortgage, they only have to pay 30 grand a year. And they turn around on that million over in a max funded IUL is what I'm talking about. And they earn 9. How much more is 9 than 3? Don't say 6. They're making 300%. They're making 90,000, which is 3 times more than the 30,000. Would you hire an employee for 30 grand that made you an extra 90 grand? Would you buy a widget machine for 30 grand that made you an extra 90 grand? I knew that, but I didn't know it until I had the bad experience. That equity was not because I put a big down payment in there, because I knew it wasn't liquid. I let the equity accumulate in the house without separating it. So ever since then, I have kept my real estate equity separated. Every 3, 4, 5 years, I separate it. This is me. I separate it and I keep it liquid, safe, earning a rate of return greater than the net cost of the mortgage. And if you do the math, which I did in my first book, you'll accumulate millions of dollars becoming your own banker. Here's the message. That bad experience was the best thing that ever happened to me. Sometimes I would look at my wife and say, look what has happened to our life, how blessed we have been ever since we lost that house in foreclosure. Let's go lose 20 more houses. No, I was kidding. But see, what did I do with the bad experience? I flipped it. And I said, what did I learn? And then I wrote a book, and then a second book, Misfortune. The first 11 chapters in Misfortune, Chapter 2 talks about this bad experience, and I had critics go, oh, you just lost all credibility. No, it became a bestseller. My second book became a national bestseller by telling that story in the book, by helping other Americans not make the same mistake I did by tying up a bunch of my money in equity in the property, earning 0, by keeping it separated to keep it liquid, safe, earning a rate of return, how to become your own banker. I have friends all over the planet that thank me for sharing that bad experience because it avoided having them lose money. Does that make sense? I have been compensated so many times over from having that bad experience because I flipped it. I turned it into intellectual capital. So what's the message? The world loves usefulness. They will pay you, they will compensate you for your wisdom. What's wisdom? It's a product of knowledge, which I had after that bad experience, and experiences. Knowledge times experiences gives you wisdom. I shared my wisdom in my books and on my other media platforms, and I have been blessed way more than the $150,000 I lost having that house foreclosed on. Is this making sense? So that's probably the biggest failure. What did I learn from it? You don't sit around and beat yourself up. You get up. What did I learn? And then you ask yourself, why are other people out there feeling confused, isolated, and powerless who are going through similar situations? How can I deliver clarity, confidence, and capability? And I need to muster up leadership, relationship, and creativity. And I wrote the book and it became a bestseller. The rest is history. So folks, that's how I answered that interview question for the magazine. And many other very successful people. They are successful not because they haven't failed. It's how they treated their failures. They failed often, they failed fast so that they could learn and quickly get to their success quicker. That's what I recommend for you. Hopefully, this is to your